FNaF Security Breach, probably the most controversial entry in the Five Nights at Freddy's series. There are so many ups and so many downs to this game. Personally, I think that this game is great, and I know people who feel the same way. On the other hand, there are people who hate this game, and I completely understand why. There was so much hype and lead up to this game, and when it came out, it was kind of a disappointment. I have one big example of this, which is the fear factor of the game. This is a FNaF game after all. As we saw in one of the trailers, Vanny's jumpscare was very different compared to the final product. I'll pull up a picture of both of them, just for comparison. As you can see, one of them has a very dark and scary tone, but the other one is obviously brightened up. The brightened one is the one in the game. The jumpscare, which is brightened up, has a much less tense animation compared to the other one, which is more close up. The game was also released with a lot of bugs and not much optimization. I first played the game on PS4, and I definitely experienced this. Another thing was the amount of missing content. I'm going to use Vanny as an example again, because in the lead up to the game, it looked like she was going to be a big part of it. When the game eventually released, she was barely in it, with very small segments of gameplay where she was actually a threat. So far, I've mostly been saying the negative points about the game, but you probably clicked on the video to see what good things I have to say about it. There are many good things about this game that get overlooked a lot of the time, and I feel like people forget that when the game was being worked on, the crew was relatively small compared to other game studios. Now, onto the actual positive stuff about the game. One thing that I really appreciate about the game is the options and choices that you can make. I know that a lot of the time they don't affect the rest of the game much, but with things like choosing between decommissioning Monty or Chica, it's really cool to have the choice between different types of boss fights and missions. There's also the choice of doing different endings, and depending on which ones you choose to do, it involves different amounts of effort. For example, getting the main and probably simplest ending, where you leave the Pizzaplex, is very straightforward because all you have to do is beat the game. For the Afton ending, you have to do the boss fight that you did not do when choosing between Monty and Chica, upgrade Freddy with the part you got from the animatronic, and go to do the Afton boss fight, all of this with one save station. The variety of things to do in this game is great, and I think that people don't appreciate that enough. Another cool thing about Security Breach is the actual Pizzaplex. I don't think that people think enough about how big of a shift this is compared to the rest of the series. The biggest game that we have gotten before this is probably Help Wanted, and even that is pretty small in comparison to this game. Considering how many places, levels, and minigames there are in Security Breach, it is crazy to think of how big the game actually is. The multiple floors of the Pizzaplex all seem to have their own sort of vibe to them. For example, the lower you get into the Pizzaplex, the more run down and abandoned it starts looking. The effort that went into each part of the Pizzaplex seems very evident, and I feel that this may also be overlooked. The lore is something that has been executed great across nearly every entry in this series. FNaF Security Breach is no exception. Although looking for the lore in this game may be a hassle, in normal FNaF fashion, there's still a lot to uncover. I may not be MatPat, but I know that the lore in this game is still very complicated, just like every other game in the series. This game has changed the lore, at least from what we know, very drastically, and now it seems like they might be trying to create a new storyline for FNaF, aside from William Afton. I think that this is great news for the series, because William has been the villain for so long now. It is good that we may be getting someone new. I may not have been that on board with them bringing William back for this game, because it seemed like the storyline for him was basically done, but hopefully they make the story work without him now. The mechanics of the game, such as Freddy, the Phaser Blaster, and the Phazcam, were pretty well designed. Freddy could have been used a bit more throughout the game, and maybe the Phaser Blaster and Phazcam could have served as a more important part, but I think that for what they are, they do their jobs pretty well. Freddy is great as a character, and I loved using him as a tool throughout the game, and the Phaser Blaster has a nice section in Phaser Blast. The Phazcam had some potential aside from just stunning enemies, like maybe a picture system, which could have its own section, with Gregory collecting evidence or something. I don't know exactly what they could integrate the Phazcam with, but Steelwool's creative minds probably could have come up with something. Despite all these good things about the game, I still have some criticisms. The game was very buggy on release and still has some bugs, and I feel like they rushed the release a lot because of the hype surrounding it. After so many delays, when it finally came out, it didn't seem finished, but it's getting better. As I said before, some of the mechanics could have been integrated better, but overall, I still think that FNaF Security Breach was an enjoyable experience. With the Ruin DLC coming out, what seems to be relatively soon, we may have a whole new perspective on the game. They seem like for Ruin, they're really trying to make it scarier and hopefully less broken than what Security Breach was when it came out. I think that it's good that they're taking their time with this DLC because I think that it could result in a better final product and something worth playing. Ruin does also look like it's going to be free as long as you have the base game, so people who were upset with the original release might change their minds after this DLC. I think that overall, FNaF Security Breach is a good game. For new fans of the game, it could be a nice experience, and for longtime fans, it was a cool addition. Is it worth picking up if you don't have it? I think so. I understand if you don't like the game. This was my take on it, and that doesn't mean that you have to agree with it. I don't have much else to say in terms of this video, but this is a relatively new style compared to how I used to do videos, so thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this video, and please leave a like or subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Also, please don't only expect these types of videos from the channel, because although I do want to make more of these videos, I also am planning to make gaming videos, or maybe even a review for the FNaF movie once it comes out. Also, I do have a Twitch. It's twitch.tv/fanaticbutlive, so if you could go there and maybe follow, I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching.